Today we're looking at the writing of the Declaration of Independence. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. So once the Second Continental Congress had attempted their last-ditch effort at peace with Britain with the Olive Branch Petition, which was rejected by the British, many delegates began to realize that their next course of action would be declaring full independence from Britain. On June 7th of 1776, Richard Henry Lee of Virginia proposed a resolution to begin debate of the issue of independence. Although the Congress was by no means unanimous in declaring independence and weeks of debate over the issue would follow, they did recognize that if they did decide to declare independence, they would need a document stating their reasoning for independence. So, as government bodies usually do, they appointed a committee or a small group to work on creating this document. This committee became known as the Committee of Five and included John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Robert Livingston of New York, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and of course Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. The committee was formed on June 11th of 1776 and set to work. Almost immediately, as in any small group you work with at school, the discussion came to who should actually be the primary author and write the Declaration. Some argued that Richard Henry Lee should be put on the committee to write it since he was the one that proposed the resolution. But Lee was already on the Committee of Confederation to create the Articles of Confederation, which would be the first Constitution of the United States. Then the attention turned to Thomas Jefferson. Many of the delegates had read his writings, and in particular his draft of a constitution for Virginia. But Jefferson argued that it should not be him, and instead it should be John Adams to write the document. But Adams argued against this idea, basically saying that he was not really that well liked in the Congress, and that Jefferson's writings would be much better received by the rest of the Congress. So Jefferson set about writing the Declaration while the Continental Congress debated whether or not they should declare independence. Jefferson was staying at the home of Jacob Graff in Philadelphia and had rented out the entire second floor of the building. And it was here on the second floor of that building that, Jefferson wrote most of the Declaration. Jefferson knew that if independence was approved by the Congress, that his document would be read by King George, Parliament, the people of the colonies, and more than likely he realized this document would be studied for many years to come as they were challenging the power of one of the most powerful nations in history. Jefferson knew he needed to grab the reader's attention and needed a strong introduction or preamble to the document, which today is arguably the most famous part of the document. The document then from the preamble then goes on to make basically a legal case for why the American colonies had the right to declare independence. Really, the bulk of the Declaration is just simply a list of complaints against the king and Britain. But I'm going to make another bell ringer that really breaks down the Declaration and analyzes what Jefferson wrote. But as far as writing the Declaration itself, Jefferson leaned heavily upon Benjamin Franklin and John Adams to give him feedback and offer input on revisions to the document. Over the next 17 days, Jefferson spent hours writing and rewriting the document. On June 28, 1776, the document was presented to the Continental Congress for them to review, which is what you see in this famous 12 by 18 foot painting by John Trumbull, painted in 1818, that is in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol. This painting is usually referred to as the signing of the Declaration of Independence, but actually it is the Committee of Five giving the Declaration to the Congress for them to look at. On July 2nd, 1776, the Congress approved declaring independence from Britain. In fact, John Adams wrote in his diary that Americans would celebrate July 2nd with fireworks and parties for years to come as being our Independence Day. Well, Adams was off by just a couple days. On July 3rd, the Declaration was read to the Congress and opened for discussion. The Congress basically accepted what Jefferson had wrote, except for two passages or paragraphs that were removed. One paragraph was critical or insulting to English people, and the other was a paragraph attacking the slave trade and the institution of slavery. Of course, many of the members of the Congress were slave owners and were not wanting to give up or even question slavery since it was a huge part of their livelihood. It's rather interesting that Jefferson included this since he himself was a slave owner, and here unfortunately we see the evil of slavery being pushed to the next generation to deal with. On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress approved the Declaration of Independence, written by Jefferson and the Committee of Five. The final draft was sent to John Dunlap to begin making copies, which became known as the Dunlap broadsides. The original now stayed with the Continental Congress, and if you want to find out more of what happened with the document itself, check out some of my other Bellringer videos. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.